Now, back to this piece of legislation that's being proposed in the state of Missouri. It's a piece of legislation that I firmly believe has basically no chance at ever seeing the light of day. I would wager it gets pigeonholed in committee and never even sees a vote on the floor, but it's possible. Anything is possible. You know, we've seen the Missouri state legislature do plenty of stupid things in the past. It wasn't that long ago that they increased our budget by the most it has ever been increased. They increased taxes in the form of the Missouri gas tax more than taxes have ever been increased in the history of the state of Missouri. This is all being done by the very same Republican supermajority that I'm trying to have faith in. I'm trying to trust that they won't do something stupid with these red flag laws, but you never know. That's why we've got to talk about it. That's why anytime something this stupid gets proposed in our state, we have to make a massive fuss about this. We can't just sit there silently on the sidelines assuming that our elected officials are going to do good by us, because a lot of times they don't. They get things wrong. I know that's hard to believe, that some of our elected officials get things wrong from time to time, but they do. They consistently get things wrong, especially when we're not being diligent. So anyways, let's talk about this piece of red flag legislation. It's being proposed in the wake of the recent school shooting, the shooting that unfortunately took the lives of a student as well as a teacher. Totally broke the hearts of everyone in the area. It's devastating. But Democrats, more often than not, man, I tell you what, they will not let a tragedy go to waste. They always capitalize on it. They always make things political. Before the dust has even had a chance to settle, they're already drafting legislation. They're trying to use a tragedy. They coattail it. They hook their wagon onto the back of it, and they try and use it because they know it's politically expedient for them to achieve their goals, that they manipulate and abuse a tragedy to try and gain some sort of a political upper hand. So Missouri State Representative Ian Mackey, he's the Democrat out of the 87th House District, is now, again, he's tried this before, he's now filing House Bill 126. And House Bill 126 is his variation on a red flag law. And, you know, this is being reported, and people are trying to make it out to seem like it's such a good idea. You know, they'll butter up a turd, and they'll try and tell you that it tastes good. They'll say, well, we need these red flag laws because red flag laws would prevent, you know, shootings, and it just makes sense. Well, if somebody's dangerous to themselves or to others, well, then we should preemptively take their firearms away. And see, they can make that argument sound somewhat appealing. If they do it right, they are some snake oil salesmen. I'm telling you, they will butter up a turd, and they'll try and tell you that it tastes good. And if you're not crafty, you might just take a bite before you realize it's still a turd. You know what I'm trying to say? So when they propose these red flag laws, what is a red flag law? A red flag law is a piece of legislation that says, essentially, there is some nuance, they're all a little bit different. But a red flag law is a piece of legislation that essentially says, if someone thinks that you are a red flag, if someone thinks that you are a danger to yourself or others, then they can contact the police and have your property, your guns, taken away from you before you have ever committed a crime, with no day in court. Listen, that is a clear-cut violation of the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution that says you cannot have your life, your liberty, or your property taken from you without due process of law, without your day in court. They can't come and take your stuff, your rightfully, lawfully owned property from you unless you have had your day in court. Red flag laws, I know I said there's some difference, some nuance between, pieces of legislation. The one thing they all have in common is that they are universally a violation of the Sixth Amendment. It's setting an extraordinarily dangerous precedent that we would allow the government to come in and confiscate our firearms when we have committed no crime. Have you ever seen the movie Minority Report? For those of you who haven't, you might not understand the analogy, but this is literally the Minority Report. It's the exact same premise. The idea that someone out there is going to predict that you might commit a crime. So preemptively, the cops have to show up and take your stuff away. Does that sound like the United States of America? No, it sounds like a turd. It sounds like the exact same turd that they're smearing butter on. They're saying, oh, this is going to be so great. It's going to be so fantastic. It's going to save people's lives. You know, necessity. We've talked about this before. They always claim, tyrants always claim necessity. When they violate your rights, they say, well, we have to do this to save somebody's life. It's necessary that we violate your constitutional rights. It's necessary that we strip you of your firearms, devoid of your day in court. It's necessary. No, it's not. The answer to bad people doing bad things is not to violate my rights. That's not how rights work. If you would like to live in a country or a place where you can have your rights stripped away from you, your property stripped away from you, without ever getting your day in court, there's plenty of places you can go where that's the case. The United States is just not one of them. Go reread the Sixth Amendment. I mean, for real, think about this. They can tell you it's all sunshines and rainbows. They can blow smoke up your butt. People like this Democrat representative, Ian Mackey, they can try and put butter on a turd, but at the end of the day, it's still a freaking turd. It doesn't taste very good. And if we wait to find out that it's a turd until we've already taken a bite of it, we're going to regret it. I apologize for the analogy, but it's just the best thing that came to my mind. These red flag laws are a straightforward black and white violation of our rights. And you might think, what's the big deal? What's the big deal if we just allow one little encroachment upon our rights? What's the big deal if we allow one little red flag law? It's because of the precedent that is set. It's because we set into motion something that is not easily stopped. When we allow government to have that authority, when we allow our Sixth Amendment to be set aside in the name of necessity, when we allow our rights to be thrown into the trash in the name of necessity, what precedent have we set? We have now told them that we will exchange the perception of safety for the reality of freedom. We will give up our constitutional rights in exchange for what we think might make us free. You know, Benjamin Franklin, famous quote of his, he said, "He who would trade his freedom for safety will have and deserves neither of them." Red flag laws are horrible. I hope and pray that this never, I hope this thing once again gets pigeonholed. And I hope that this Democrat representative, Lord willing, he's listening to the show right now. Wouldn't that be awesome? I hope that this Democrat representative, Mr. Mackey, opens up the United States Constitution, flips just a couple pages to the amendments, opens up our Bill of Rights, and reads the Sixth Amendment. Read it and read it good. And understand that what you are advocating for, the piece of legislation that you, Mr. Mackey, are sponsoring and trying to get passed, would set one of the most dangerous precedents you could possibly imagine. You might not think it's dangerous today, but if that's the case, you are historically ignorant. Because when you give government that level of power, there's only one thing that happens. They abuse it. Government is good for very little, but we can always predict their actions. When you give government power, they will always, for one, want more. They have an insatiable hunger for more power. They have an insatiable desire to consume more of your rights. But the other thing they'll always do is they will abuse it. It's like, you remember that old children's book? If you give a mouse a cookie, it's always going to, I don't know how the book goes word for word, but if you give a mouse a cookie, it's going to want another one. And if you give it another one, it's going to want more. It's going to want more. It's going to want more. Government is that mouse. If you give a mouse a cookie, it's always, always, always going to want more. It's never satisfied.